Welcome to the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. This is episode number 166 on September 21st, 2023. My name is Andy Zee. I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I want to welcome everyone watching on YouTube or listening as a podcast. The RNL show is a show about the urgent need for revolution, a real revolution. In every episode of the RNL show, we bring to you in-depth exposure of the roots of all the degradation, oppression, outrageous brutality that people confront here and around the world from the capitalist imperialist system. On this program, we don't mince words about the dangers that humanity faces, existential dangers that include the possible wiping out of humanity through climate devastation or nuclear war. And we bring to you the solution through a real revolution aimed at nothing less and nothing other than the emancipation of humanity here and around the world from every form of exploitation and oppression. And more, we bring to every program the scientific method and approach to know and to change the world that is the bedrock of a new framework for the emancipation of all humanity, the new communism developed by the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian. We are in a unique time in history. The world is on edge. Chaos and madness seem to reign. In this country, things are polarized such that comparisons are made to the run-up to the Civil War of 1861 to 65. And talk of a new civil war is in the air as the 2024 election season heats up. While revolution has long been necessary to overcome the ravages of capitalism, what makes this time different, and what makes everything we bring to you on the RNL show so much more crucial, is that this country, the biggest oppressor and exploiter in the world today, is split in two, from the smallest of towns to the highest reaches of the halls of power, with one side, the fascist Republican Party of Trump, moving to an outright fascist form of rule, while the other, the Democratic Party, has no answer other than the oppressive way this system has always been ruled. The proclamation, "We are the Revcoms," says, quote, "They cannot resolve these deep divisions and hold the country together on the basis of the normal way this system has operated. And in any case, that normal way is full of oppression, destruction, and the real danger of wiping out humanity." The most important thing to understand, the other side of the coin, is that in such a time, with such a divide, when people are more and more unsure of the future, the revolution we are working for is even more urgently necessary, and what is key is even more possible. But this will only happen through ferocious struggle with the people who are sleepwalking or worse. On the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, we struggle for everyone to wake up and to discard illusions and delusions that a fascist America or the destruction of life on Earth through climate change or nuclear war can't happen here. That things will just work out because, after all, this is a great, or at least a perfectible country. Instead, with the stakes what they are, this is the time to get with the Revcoms. This is the time to get into the work of Bob Avakian. This is the time to watch and spread this, the RNL show, far and wide. We are urgently working now to put revolution on the map. So, with that, we want to open today's program with a piece that we premiered in a dispatch last week on our channel titled Allegiance. This brings home what I have been speaking of and is a great introduction to today's show, and it is a challenge to you. Who and what are you going to serve? Who and what are you going to pledge allegiance to? Watch.
Allegiance. Allegiance. No to this republic of the so-called United States of America with its blood-soaked red, white, and blue rag, and the system for which it stands, the economic and political system of capitalism, imperialism.
A republic whose national anthem was written by a slave owner. Oh, say, can you see all the slavery? A republic deeply divided under the rule of oppressors, with liberty and justice denied. A republic founded on slavery and genocidal robbery, keeping millions of black people in chains for generations, killing off huge numbers of Native Americans and stealing their land, waging a war that ripped off half of Mexico, greatly expanding slavery.
A system that from the start and down to today has been grounded in heartless exploitation, using and abusing masses of people to create wealth for the few, with violent white supremacy, male supremacy, and gender oppression built into and enforced by this system, plundering people in all parts of the world, destroying the environment, and waging unjust war after war, even to the point of threatening the very existence of humanity, killing off hope for a decent future or any future at all.
Yes, to a radically different republic and much better system. A new socialist republic. A system which will move to abolish and uproot all this madness and give the highest expression to people's humanity and a future corresponding to people's highest aspirations.
To people everywhere, in every part of society, the cause we should be dedicated to and the allegiance we should hold is represented not by the U.S. Constitution, a document written by and serving the interests of slave-owning and capitalist exploiters from the founding of this country down to today, a document that elevates property and the right to enslave and exploit above and against the life and liberty of billions of people here and throughout the world. A document that for nearly 100 years institutionalized owning black people as property. A document that has been repeatedly used and is used today to legalize inequality, injustice, and oppression, with whole groups of people treated as second class and less than fully human. We can do much better than this.
The cause we need to be dedicated to is revolution. To abolish and uproot this system we are now forced to live under and bring into being a new system based on the Constitution for the new socialist republic in North America, which provides a sweeping vision, a firm foundation, and concrete blueprint for a radically different and emancipating society and world, with the abolition of all inequality, oppression, and exploitation.
We are the RevComs, revolutionary communists.
Working every day for the revolution that is urgently needed to bring down this system of capitalism imperialism and bring into being a fundamentally different and far better system. Working to spread this revolution everywhere, organizing thousands and then millions into the ranks of this revolution so that there is a real chance to win.
To people everywhere,
in every part of society,
join us as revolutionary emancipators of humanity.
Not murderous enforcers or mindless accomplices of the injustice, degradation,
and devastation of this system of capitalism imperialism.
And its terrible consequences for humanity.
A challenge. If anyone wants to claim that what we have said here is not right, then let them have the courage to put that on the line, directly up against us and the knowledge we are bringing. And it will become even more clear that what we say is the truth, a powerful truth that people need to know about and take up.
Allegiance. Now, we mean it when we say there's a challenge. If anyone wants to claim that what we have said here is not right, then let them have the courage to put that on the line, directly up against us and the knowledge we are bringing. And it will become even more clear that what we say is the truth, a powerful truth that people need to know about and to take up. You can write us, put something in the comments below. You can write us at therevcoms@gmail.com, and let's get into it. It matters. So one thing is you can get copies of this flyer and a poster. If you go to revcom.us, the flyer, you can just download the PDF. You can put in your own local information. Let's get these out everywhere, especially the next week or two, and then continue to use this piece. And with that, I want to introduce and welcome Sunsara Taylor, the co-host of the Revolution Nothing Less show. Sunsara, welcome.
Very happy to be here. I want to welcome everybody tuning in for the first time and everybody who is a regular watcher. We've got a great show today. I think I should just run it down. Is that okay with you?
It's okay with me. A really big show.
A really big show.
Okay. No, we do. It's important. It's an important show.
All right. So we're going to share a portion of the kickoff event and speech from Raymond Lotta from a major speaking tour he is launching called The Communist Revolution So Badly Needed versus the Anti-Communist Brainwash You Are Getting. And he gave this talk just this week up at Revolution Books in Harlem in New York City. And he is taking on, precisely like he says, the brainwash, the anti-communist brainwash that is pervaded across the society and put on so many people like a straitjacket, suffocating their thinking and preventing them from searching out the actual solution, a real communist revolution to get out of the madness we face today. And Raymond is fighting for people to take up and learn about and engage and really take up to change the world, the new communism that Bob Avakian has forged and the leadership that he is providing for that. So we're going to share a portion of that. It's a very important part of the kickoff.
Opening of the speech.
The opening of his speech. After that, we're going to give you a chance to hear from Bob Avakian directly. We're going to share a portion of the interview that Andy and I had the tremendous privilege of a lifetime, I will say, to conduct this interview with him last fall on this show. We're going to share a portion of it, and then we're going to talk some about the campaign that we are waging and we want to bring you in on to fight to get these interviews seen throughout society and to provoke people's thinking, to disrupt the ways that they are tuned out to what they need to be tuned into, in particular these interviews. And then we'll take some time on the 1-year anniversary of what was really a beautiful, heroic, world-inspiring uprising of millions of women and men as well across Iran 1 year ago this week, after the morality police murdered Mahsa Amini for allegedly wearing her hijab, her headscarf, incorrectly. And we're going to revisit that heroic uprising and look some at the questions posed for the future. So that's our show today.
All right, well, let's get into it because we have a lot we want to talk about today. So
this is Raymond Lotta speaking at Revolution Books in New York City.
The communist revolution so badly needed versus the anti-communist brainwash you're getting. Why am I giving this talk? Because of the high stakes at this juncture in history. Because everyone who cares about humanity and the planet faces an historic challenge. Our planet is on fire. This past summer was the hottest in 125,000 years. This is not some natural cycle or freak series of events, but the cumulative and escalating result of the burning of fossil fuels by the capitalist imperialist system. A system that plunders nature for profit, whose inner compulsion is the competitive drive to expand for profit and more profit. The prospect of an uninhabitable Earth is real. We are facing the real and growing danger of world war, of nuclear war, as the US and Russia wage their indirect war with each other over Ukraine, as the US steps up its war maneuvers and war preparations against imperialist China. The prospect of a nuclear war between the US and Russia that would leave 5 billion dead is real. This is a world in which almost 1 in 3 women is subjected to physical or sexual violence. in which 100 million people last year were refugees, forcibly displaced by persecution, disaster, poverty, and conflict. It is a world of cruel, globalized exploitation, of high-tech supply chains originating in the rich capitalist countries that incorporate sweatshops employing millions of women from Bangladesh to Guatemala, chains of misery that extend deep into cobalt mines in Congo, where children are digging tunnels and hauling rocks to enhance the profitability of the likes of Apple. This is what America's vaunted standard of living rests on. And this is a world of savage inequality in which the richest 1% have accumulated nearly twice as much wealth as the rest of the world put together over the last 2 years. In the US and elsewhere, fascism is on the rise and on a rampage, aiming to impose a theocratic order of viciously enforced patriarchy and anti-LGBTQ terror, naked white supremacy, and virulent, know-nothing, make America great patriotism, outlawing critical thinking and the teaching of historical truth. The world cries out for revolution, a revolution to overthrow and put an end to this system of capitalist imperialism, the system that is the cause of all of what I've been describing. As the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian has said, we can no longer afford to allow these imperialists to dominate the world and determine the destiny of humanity. And it is a scientific fact that humanity does not have to live this way. Bob Avakian has charted a way out of madness with the new communism. He has further developed the Marxist scientific method and approach for understanding and transforming society and the world. He has forged a strategy for making revolution with a real chance of winning, and brought forward a vision and blueprint in the Constitution for the new socialist republic in North America for a truly liberatory socialist society on the road to a communist world in which human beings can truly flourish and become caretakers of the planet. People need to know about this, learn about this, and become part of the revolution to change everything and protect the planet. But the same capitalist imperialist system that has brought the planet to this horrendous pass has ruled communist revolution off the agenda. Its functionaries and ideologues, its anointed experts and storytellers, its media tell you, remind you, drill into your head that communism is a utopian project that inevitably turns into totalitarian nightmare. It's as though a warning label were affixed to your hopes and dreams for a better world. Danger, go there. But really, should it be a surprise that this system, based on exploitation, inequality, and the commodification of everything, and that rules the world? Is it really a surprise that it would be indoctrinating you with the idea that communism, the opposite of all of this, is the worst imaginable scenario for humanity? The truth is that the first stage of communist revolution led to history's first socialist states in Russia, 1917 to 1956, and China from 1949 to 1976. These are among the most momentous episodes of the last 175 years. The first attempts in modern history to build societies free from exploitation and oppression. They accomplished amazing things against incredible odds. This is precious experience to be learned from with a critical scientific approach, both the achievements and the errors, including grievous errors. But this experience has been subjected to more slander, lies, and distortion than any other historical events of the 20th century, bar none. There are the supposedly scholarly works that traffic in half-truths and lies, and a little later in this talk, I'm going to give a shocking example of that. There are the highly promoted memoirs of hardship and suffering. Evaluating communism this way would be like trying to understand the Civil War by relying on the sob stories of dispossessed plantation owners. The official verdict that communism is a promised utopia turned into nightmare has become a kind of institutionalized conventional wisdom, including and especially in academia. And this puts a lid on people's capacity to conceive of a world beyond capitalism, precisely when revolution is more urgently needed and more possible. Houston, we have a problem. The universities that should be alive with radical and revolutionary thought, students who should be catalysts for revolution in society, are weighed down by this verdict about communism. It lowers sights, chains people ideologically to this system. That has to change. We have to work to change this, and quickly, because the clock is ticking. This is why I am opening up debate about the past and future of communist revolution and the future of humanity. This is why I am opening people's eyes to the new communism, a whole new framework for human emancipation that enables us to understand the achievements and the problems of these first socialist revolutions, and to go beyond these first revolutions to a qualitatively more emancipating future. At this dangerous juncture, we have two choices: live with all this horror and condemn future generations to the same or worse, if they have a future at all, or make revolution.
All right, Sunsara. So that was our friend Raymond Lotta in New York City at Revolution Books, giving an in-depth presentation titled "The Communist Revolution So Badly Needed versus the Anti-Communist Brainwash You're Getting." He goes into the true history of the first socialist revolutions in opposition to the verdicts that are promoted by advocates for this system. And a central focus of his talk is the qualitative development of the science of communism by Bob Avakian that really does enable a whole new era in revolution today. And it's opening up a lot of potential because he is the pathway forward to overcoming some of the shortcomings of the first revolution, shortcomings that in some cases were extremely serious, even grievous. And there's the potential for human emancipation in this new communism is really just an extraordinary thing. But this is also building on those first revolutions and not dismissing them. And that's had a tremendously negative effect, that verdict from the defenders of capitalism. So what we want to say to everybody is you heard the beginning of this, and bring Raymond Lotta to your campus and to other venues. He's going on a tour. And for more information as to how to set up a speaking engagement or to even engage whether you should set one up and how to do it, contact the email address and the phone number on the screen and also in the description below. So one of the things we're going to get into is how we can really bring Bob Avakian out even more. And these distortions and bullshit verdicts on the history of communism, the first socialist revolutions in the 20th century, that they were a horror and all this. Raymond made the point that these verdicts that are promoted all the time in various media and in the academy have put a real lid on people's capacity to conceive of a world beyond capitalism, precisely at a time when revolution is so urgently needed and more possible. And as I said at the beginning of the program, here we are facing these existential questions. A MAGA fascist future is barreling down on us. There's the danger of war, nuclear war even, that there's environmental devastation. And people should be, but they are not rushing to check out what this person has actually developed as a way out of the madness. It's infuriating, and we need to change it.
This person being Bob Avakian, who Raymond talked about and we've been speaking about, he has developed a new communism, a new framework for human emancipation, which, like you said, it builds on the most liberatory, really earth-shaking experiences of these first revolutions, which Raymond goes further into in that talk, but also significantly advances the science, the method, the strategy for making a revolution, and the vision and the framework for how a new society would be run. And one of the key things at the core of this new communism that Bob Avakian has forged is a determination to root out of the communist movement and vision the whole poisonous notion of the ends justify the means. And this is, it changes the whole quality and character of the world we're fighting for and the methods we use to get there in a very, very profound way. It's one of the things we had the chance to ask him about last fall when we interviewed him here on this show in these extraordinary interviews, which we really, really want to encourage everybody to go deeply into on our channel. A 3-part interview with Bob Avakian where we went up close and personal with him, got a sense of his life, what shaped him, his formative years coming up in Berkeley, working closely with the Black Panther Party in its most revolutionary days, many of the things that he's explored and struggled, the problems he's put himself to. And as part of this, we asked him about this notion of the ends justify the means. And I think what we want to do now is give you a taste of that. We're going to play that answer, and then we'll come back and we'll have some more to say about the importance of these interviews.
On the homepage of our website, revcom.us, and a quotation from the work you've done on the breakthroughs of the new communism, you said this, and I think it's a theoretical statement, but it's very important in terms of how we approach things. You say that the new communism thoroughly repudiates and is determined to root out of the communist movement the poisonous notion and practice that the ends justifies the means. It's a bedrock principle of the new communism that the means of this movement must flow from and be consistent with the fundamental ends of abolishing all exploitation and oppression through this revolution led on a scientific basis. So I think this is, it's a very important concept. You were talking about the international situation. In basics it says, internationalism, the whole world comes first, not the first shall be last and the last shall be first. This is an application of this same orientation. But I think it's very important as we're going out that we're coming from that place. It's something you've emphasized a lot, and in terms of what we try to do on this show and what we want people to be taking out. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about this, because it is, I think, a major difference with the new communism, breakthrough actually.
Yeah, well, the revolution we're talking about is a revolution to end all oppression and exploitation, as well as the degradation of the environment everywhere on the earth. It's a revolution. That's why we talk about being emancipators of humanity. It's not a revolution for revenge. But at the same time, we have to recognize that, I was just saying, these youth who've been caught up in all this bad shit and going at each other, killing each other for no good reason, and only reinforcing their own oppression by doing it. Okay, we're talking about winning over those youth to this revolution, and I firmly believe there's a basis for that, but it's going to take a tremendous amount of struggle. And as we are winning them over, Lenin said something like this: you don't make revolution, or you don't even have a new society with people as you would like them to be. You make revolution with people as they are, and then there's a process of people continually transforming themselves as they're transforming the larger world. Okay, that sounds kind of abstract, but let's get that right down on the ground and concrete. You win, you win people in general. I mean, we've seen it. When people stand up against oppression, there's a very strong pull to go for revenge. You see it all over the place, and it's understandable. People, look what women have been put through, all this time. And, every sphere of society, including, just the daily interactions with people, as well as the bigger social relations. And, or you look at the white supremacy and the history of that, the almost unbelievably atrocious history of white supremacist violence in this country, by the Ku Klux Klan and by the police and on, by, the official institutions of the country. And then on top of that, let's say you go into a neighborhood of like where these basic youth are, they've been killing each other for generations over nothing, really. Over blocks they don't even control when you get right down to it. And somebody was saying all your homies you grew up with have been killed by these other people 2 blocks away, and the same for them. So when people do raise their heads and come into the revolution, they're going to be bringing some of that stuff with them. And that's why you have to have a very firmly grounded scientific leadership which can unleash the fury of oppressed people, women and others, but at the same time can channel and direct it toward the source of all this, the fundamental cause of all this, which is the system itself, and not get sidetracked into going for revenge against people who are not the fundamental source of it. Maybe they're a little bit better off than you. Maybe they did something wrong, they did you wrong some way, sometime in the past. That's not the problem. That's not what created the conditions that you're in. That's not what's causing you to go through hell day after day after day, just trying to make it through life. Someone was talking earlier about, just to be a woman and to walk down the street, any given time, is a trial and it can be a nightmare. And then we know to be on the block and the police coming at you for no reason, shooting you and just because they feel like it, or because you looked at them the wrong way, or you looked the wrong way to them. People going through all this hell. Well, this spontaneous reaction is just to lash out, and even lash out blindly against other people. Maybe somebody in another neighborhood has it better than you, on the other side of town. The fact that they have it better than you is merely an outward expression of the system. It's not the fundamental nature and dynamics of the system. It's not the cause of why things are the way they are. And we got to go after the cause. The cause is the system itself. And what's enforcing this cause, what's keeping this system in place and keeping people subordinated to it and enslaved to it, in fact, is all the institutions of violent repression of this system. So ultimately, if you want to get rid of all this madness that people are put through, you have to get down to the base of it. You have to transform the economic system and all the social relations. But in order to do that, you have to go up against and defeat this stranglehold that these violent institutions have over the people and over society, enforcing the basic economic and political and social relations. That's where we have to direct people. And also, we want to get to a world beyond all this, not just change the faces or the groups of people who are enforcing it and benefiting from it. And this is going to be a tremendous struggle. We need to bring forward masses of people who are catching hell. But we also need to struggle with them and lead them to take up and themselves apply a scientific approach to the problem and to the solution. The problem is the system, the solution is to overthrow the system and bring a radically different and better system into being. And we have to keep our eye on that prize and not go at other people who may have done bad things or may have had it a little bit better off. But by going after them, we're only going to be reinforcing what the system is imposing on people.
All right, Sunsara. So that was from the interview that we did with Bob Avakian last year on why it is that the means of our revolution, which means how we actually build this revolution, how it gets carried out, have to be consistent with the goal, which is the emancipation of all humanity, and how this is not a revolution about revenge. It is not about the last shall be first and the first shall be last. This is about freeing all of humanity. But right now, the problem I want to address, and I think that why we're doing this segment again today, is because it is criminal in the situation we face that there aren't hundreds of thousands and millions who've seen these interviews. Yes, tens of thousands have seen them or part of them and all this, but it's not anywhere commensurate with a situation where the future of humanity is at stake and where there's the opportunity to actually make a real revolution. And just to encapsulate this, we've been talking about these interviews and how to make them a bigger deal. And there's a statement in We Are the Revcoms, the proclamation, and then it's printed on the back of this declaration. We need and we demand a whole new way to live, a fundamentally different system. Right down here, it's a sentiment or a basic understanding from Bob Avakian. It's posed very sharply where he says, we can no longer afford to allow these imperialists to continue to dominate the world and determine the destiny of humanity. And it is a scientific fact that humanity does not have to live this way. A whole different way to organize society, a whole better world is possible. That's what these interviews concentrate.
Yeah, they concentrate this, and they concentrate it, like you said, in a moment when humanity's future lies in the balance. There's work to do, both to spread this, but also to disrupt their thinking, provoke people, challenge them, make them feel that they can't ignore this. So this is something of a campaign that we need to be on. And what I think would be good, we'll show, which we are on, and more of you need to be on with us. We want to show a TikTok that gives a little glimpse of some of the work that's been done to spread what are some very provocative teasers about these interviews out in society. And then I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the thought behind this.
You know, what this really shows is the need to get rid of the whole system. And you're not going to defund the police. You know, look at what's happened. You know, you got, the great Democratic hero, Joe Biden. The answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund them. Fund them. Fund them. What'd I say? Fund them.
Okay, so we saw that, and if you go to revcom.us, these posters that you saw getting up on the walls are under a headline that says, "What is that? Who said that? Say what?" And Andy, maybe you could give a sense of what is the concept here. Why not just tell people who said that and what the answer is? Why are these posed as questions?
All right. You know what, though? Got to read it like this. What is that? Who said that? Say what? Why is it dangerous to lead a revolution if you don't have a poetic spirit? How'd you go from being a proud American to opposing everything America stands for, but you don't know who's saying this? Mm. Look, what we're trying to do right now is provoke the people who should be looking at this. You know, it's true that a lot of people, what you said before, that a lot of people have their head in the sand, they're ignoring things, they're depressed, all of this, but there's a lot of people who care, and they're looking every place other than the one place that some of them even know exists but don't go there, where there actually are answers to the very things they're agonizing about. And instead, they're getting into all kinds of bullshit, and the bullshit has barely started with the bourgeois electoral bullshit that's coming up, where people are just driven into the elections instead of looking to something that could actually solve these problems. So we've developed a campaign to kind of jolt these into the public consciousness, okay? And so for a couple of weeks, we're putting up these provocations that don't say who it is. They don't tell you it's a communist leader, who's a white man. Oh, I don't want to read that. Well, actually, by putting these provocations up, and they put their cell phone on the QR code, and they go and they get into these interviews, and we have some evidence already that it's, first of all, a number of people proportionally who to the number of posters have actually been,
we're getting a good scan rate for the posters that are out. They actually are provoking people. They are driving people to the interviews. Yeah.
Democracy, it's just another form of dictatorship. Say what? Taking care of me. What about humanity? That hits hard at a lot of people. Yeah. So the idea for a couple of weeks, we're driving people to this in a way that's provocative, and we're trying to get them all over the place. And some people won't do that, but they're going to wonder what it is. And then in a couple of weeks, a new set of posters are going to come out. I'm just telling you this. Don't tell anybody else, okay? But really got to keep this a secret. Got to get them provoked and wondering, what is this campaign? Then in a couple of weeks, it's actually probably in about 10 days, they're going to start coming out with Bob Avakian's picture with who this is and what we're doing. And here in Los Angeles, we're going to be announcing a film showing where we're going to be showing these a section of these interviews in a theatrical setting. So this is a way to crack things open. At the same time, the Bob Avakian interviews are not just in a campaign. This has to be a certain run through or through line in everything that's being done to build this revolution. As I said before, people who are getting serious about revolution know you need leadership, and they need to actually experience these interviews. He's written lots of books, lots of theoretical things, lots of every week, sharp agitational articles on our site on various particular problems that give guidance to the movement for revolution. But these interviews give you a 360 view of him, and they actually present in a very living way the entirety of the revolution. So this is integral to forming the kind of movement to defend the people, to fight the power, and to transform the thinking of masses of people. But we do have these provocations. We can talk a little bit more about them. I'm particularly excited by them.
Well, which one, I'm going to ask you, Andy, which one do you most want to talk about? Democracy, it's just another form of dictatorship? What? You don't know the most important political thinker and revolutionary leader in the world today?
Well, that's one we've been talking about already on the show, but it's actually very important because, it's very provocative. Here's a funny thing about it, is that people really want to know who that is. But if you just go out to people and say, or too many people actually, and say, Bob Avakian is the most important political thinker and revolutionary leader in the world today, they get all huffy about it, like, what about me, or somebody else, and see, they don't, it's part of the culture we have. How could you not be curious to find out about that? And it turns out they are curious, so they go here and they find out the reason that we can back up that statement is what I said before, that Bob Avakian's answering questions that people haven't even thought of. Like, how do you overcome a system where people's, how they work, how we provide for society depends on people being compelled to work for not the interests of humanity, not for their own interests, but to create profit for a class of people that is in a form that's actually destroying the planet, leading to war and terrible exploitation and oppression of the masses of people. And he's written a constitution that, after a revolution, puts you on the path to doing exactly what we were talking about, emancipating all of humanity. And what are the obstacles to that? What is the role of dissent? How important that is in this new constitution? Things like that. Things about making sustainability of the planet, the ecology of the planet, integral to the economic production that's done. You can probably think of some others.
Well, I want to read this one. Why is it dangerous? You already did, but I'm going to read it. Why is it dangerous to lead a revolution if you don't have a poetic spirit? And I'm not going to talk about the answer because I want to provoke you to watch the interview. We asked Bob, it's the last question in the first interview that you asked him, Andy. And his answer is so not the stereotypical commie, that people have in their minds that they think they don't need to hear from or engage. And it's so much more expansive and large-minded than most of the culture today in this so-called free, enlightened bourgeois dictatorship. But I just want to say, we want you, everybody watching, to not only be provoked here to go watch the interviews, but to get your hands on these, download them from revcom.us, put them up on your campus, put them up in the laundromats near you, put them up on street posts, put them up in your apartment complexes, wherever you can spread these. Get people talking, get people curious. And
yeah, I just want to
go ahead.
Just want to follow up with I'm really tired of hearing people say, well, I told my friends and they just weren't interested. Okay. So you say, well, what didn't they find interesting? Oh, no, they didn't even watch it. Oh, they didn't even. If that's an unacceptable answer from you, it's obviously unacceptable from them, as they're just full of shit if they're not going to look at it. But it's unacceptable from you to say, my friends aren't interested. Try this out. You can even just, in conversation, raise one of these provocations, and you can make some up yourself. And then, there was once a commercial for some cereal. It said, try it, you'll like it, And I think that's actually the case. We've got to, it's not tricking people, but it's provoking them.
Well, it's disrupting the brainwash. It's disrupting the brainwash and the mental straitjacket that people and that this system puts on them, and that all too many are embracing. And then when you do provoke people, sit down and watch the interviews with them and talk with them about that, about what's in them. Talk with them about Bob Avakian. Talk with them about what they're learning, what questions it provokes. Write to us on our channel in the comments. Let us know what you're running into. These need to get out all over society, and we need a movement of people watching these interviews together, spreading them in group watchings, in major or different size public showings, but also in a grassroots movement. People need to get into this, leader, and we need to fight with others to engage this.
Something you just said that is very important. People watching this together and engaging it. Look, taking care of me. What about humanity?
That's actually the next question that comes after the one we showed today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but all right, let's debate it. There's an ancient, if I am not for me, who will be for me? There's a lot. The individualism is very deep in the culture. Well, let's debate it. How can you be for me if you're not about humanity? And if we're about emancipating humanity, there's actually a whole different concept of me that comes in that's actually far more expansive in terms of, in a collective context. Bob Avakian has said, individuality can flourish as well as the collective effort to actually continually transform the world in terms of how things are developing. And it's a whole different vision of what humanity could be. So these are provocations to, provoke people into getting into it, but there also should be some discussion about them and struggle over it and debate, why is it dangerous to lead a revolution without a poetic spirit? Correct? Don't give them the answer. But that's, it's both atypical of a communist leader, but it's also a very important question, and it's a contradiction too. Like, how do you maintain that poetic spirit in the midst of the kind of struggle you have to make for a revolution? And Bob Avakian years ago said that in making this revolution, the enemy will try and make us like they are, turn you into that sort of ruthless, revenge-filled person that this and movement that this system represents. And without that poetic spirit, without losing our sense of humor and solemn sense of purpose, then we would lose the whole thing. And this is the kind of, if I'm being clear about this, these things are actually things to get into and debate out and change the thinking of masses of people to become followers of Bob Avakian and to get into this revolution to emancipate humanity in a moment when it's actually possible.
All right, so I think we're going to leave you with that in terms of these provocations in the coming weeks. We hope to be having a lot more pictures to share of this going up on the walls across the country. Send them in to us and let us know what you're running into. All right, before we move forward in today's show, we want to announce that this Sunday, I am hosting, together with Rafael Caderas, one of our correspondents here on the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, a Zoom. Everybody's invited, and we want to spread the word across the country. Woke Lunacy versus Real Revolution. And this is the name of a campaign and speaking tour that he and I have been doing. And we're stepping up again this fall on the campuses and across this country to take on and break young people in particular, but also people among the intellectuals and artists and others who are really caught up in, we talked about the straitjacket of anti-communism, the straitjacket as well of wokedom, the way that people are caught up in cancel culture and seeking safe spaces to retreat from reality rather than confronting it as it actually is, the endless identity politics and searching for a place and representation within this system that is the source of so much oppression and horror for humanity, rather than getting serious about getting to the root of the oppression and fighting for a real revolution that can end it and emancipate humanity. So we've been out. We showed a lot of the footage from the first leg of the tour here on this show. We have new dates coming up, and we want you to bring this to your campus, bring it to your town, wherever you are. Volunteer to work on this campaign with us and sign up and spread the word about the Zoom this weekend so we can bring more people into this. 2 p.m. this Sunday, we'll put the information on the screen, and we'll be showing more footage from Rafael speaking as part of this tour out in New York in next week's episode. One year ago this week, the country of Iran erupted in a way never seen before. Mahsa Jina Amini, a 19-year-old young woman, was arrested by the morality police for allegedly wearing her headscarf in the wrong way. She died in custody. Almost certainly she was murdered. Horrific as that is, it was not something that had never happened before. That, or something not so very different, happens all too often in Iran, and all too often in way too many places around the world. It was what came next that was unprecedented. The murder of Mahsa Amini, or Jina, was one murder too many. Women, thousands and then millions of them, poured into the streets, many defiantly tearing off their hijabs, the Islamic headscarf that women are required to wear in Iran by law. They did this in the face of clubs and bullets, insults and threats, arrest, torture, and even murder. And they did it with rebellious joy and dance and courage that inspired the whole world. They demanded an end to the religious-based laws that dictate what they must and must not wear. No country had ever witnessed such an outpouring of women against their oppression, up against such violence. Nor had what happened next ever been seen. Hundreds of thousands of men came into the streets and joined these women. Hundreds of thousands of people from oppressed nationalities came out as well, demanding an end to their oppression. And millions of people from all backgrounds defiantly raised the demand for freedom. And this, all of this, was inspired by the mighty fury of women fighting against their brutal oppression. This uprising lasted months. People braved beatings, prison sentences, torture, murder, and official public execution. Eventually, the struggle subsided. But even still, within the walls of the prisons, heroic resistance to the regime continues. And in different ways, people are finding the ways to defy the clampdown on women and girls aimed at reasserting the reign of terror from this regime over them. The question now poses itself sharply. What next? We want to urge you to go to revcom.us and spend some time this week digging into the special section we put together on the occasion of this one-year anniversary. Read the statements from the Communist Party of Iran, MLM, from Ocean Rebellion, the voice of women's rebellion against the Islamic Republic of Iran and against the Taliban. And read the quotes from Bob Avakian. All of these on our site are devoted to help answer that question, what's next, in a way that will actually bring liberation. Here we want to share an excerpt of an audio recording of one of these powerful statements. It is from Ocean Rebellion and 6 other organizations, and it has been signed by over 200 artists and intellectuals from around the world. It is called In Memory of Mahsa Jina Amini and for the emancipation of all women in the world.
We are all the oppressed people of the world, and on the anniversary of the unique uprising of Jina, which beat like the heartbeat of the world in Iran, we intend to use everything we have learned to clear the way to overthrow the Islamic Republic, patriarchy, and the system of domination. Jina's uprising passed the red line and targeted the heart of the Islamic Republic, which is its misogynistic Islamic ideology, by the struggle against the compulsory hijab. This forced all groups and individuals in Iran and around the world, from artists and athletes to workers, to take a stand and announce their position. By showing the potential of women, Jina's uprising encouraged the people of the world and even put the possibility of revolution in front of non-believers. It made the power of the world to mobilize and to try to contain it within the framework of the profit-oriented system and thoughts produced by it. However, there is one reality and necessity in front of us, and it is that despite the importance and influence of Jina Uprising, the Islamic Republic is still on its feet.
This statement is so inspiring and powerful. You definitely want to go and listen to the whole thing and read the whole thing at revcom.us. And speaking to this reality, we also want to share this challenge from the Communist Party of Iran, MLM. It's just a portion of what we have available from them on our website. It says, despite the vicious repression that followed and the temporary ebb in the struggle, this uprising that shook the Iranian regime to its foundations illustrates a critical fact about today's world. Humanity is living through unprecedented times. The existing world order is being ripped apart. Millions of migrants are being driven across borders everywhere. Environmental catastrophe looms over the planet. The specter of nuclear war is rising, and the Western democracies are increasingly giving rise to fascist forces that are tearing at the normal ways society is being run, threatening a more naked and far more repressive form of rule. The cry for freedom has been on the lips of millions in Iran, but the burning question is this: will this be freedom for the oppressed to seize on the turmoil that is tearing apart the old order, to make revolution, overthrow the regime along with all relations of oppression and exploitation, and replace it with something much better? Or will exploiters and oppressors be free in one form or another, either to continue the old regime or continue the same conditions of oppression and exploitation with new faces at the top? End quote. Again, we want to urge you to go to revcom.us and read these full statements and the other material available there, and then spread these to people everywhere, especially where there are outpourings and commemorations of the anniversary of this beautiful uprising in Iran. The struggle of the women and the broad masses of people in Iran is our struggle. Their blood is our blood, and their cry for real and lasting liberation is one that we must support and join with, fighting to advance this same fight all over the world. In Basics 322, Bob Avakian powerfully captures why everyone who hates oppression must take up the fight to break the chains on women, and how central this struggle against women's oppression can and must be to making a real revolution and bringing about a world where humanity as a whole is finally set free. He says, "You cannot break all the chains except one. You cannot say you want to be free of exploitation and oppression, except you want to keep the oppression of women by men. You can't say you want to liberate humanity, yet keep one half the people enslaved to the other half. The oppression of women is completely bound up with the division of society into masters and slaves, exploiters and exploited, and the ending of all such conditions is impossible without the complete liberation of women. All this is why women have a tremendous role to play, not only in making revolution, but in making sure it is all the way revolution. The fury of women can and must be fully unleashed as a mighty force for proletarian revolution."
All right, Sunsara, that was a very moving and stirring segment in terms of the anniversary of the Jina Rising in Iran. I know you have one more thing to bring to us on that, but before you do, we'll close out the show with that. I want to say thank you to the crew of the RNL show for putting this together once again, and it does bring us to the end of this episode number 166 on September 21st, so 2023. So we'll see you next Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Central time, and 8 p.m. New York time. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight to you, Sunsara, and you say, tell us what you've got for the end of our show.
Yeah, we're going to take just a short moment and send you out with a beautiful song recorded by the Iranian singer Mina Deris, that is a song dedicated to another Iranian singer who is actually imprisoned in Iran right now, a very prominent pop singer from Iran named Mehdi Yarahi, who released a beautiful song in anticipation for the one-year anniversary of the Mahsa Jina Amini Uprising. And he was arrested for this. And I want to read the opening lyrics to his song that he was arrested for, where he sang, "Take off your scarf. The sun is sinking. Don't be afraid, my love. Laugh, protest against tears." And so he is in prison right now, along with way too many beautiful, beautiful people who and lovers of freedom in Iran. And Mina Deris recorded a song. We have the lyrics on the screen. Let them sit in your heart. Take them in. And we want to close out the show with that.
All right. We'll see you next week.
بس من النوم يا شعبي بس من النوم تحزموا قوم بشهامة تحزموا قوم بس من النوم يا شعبي بس من النوم تحزموا قوم بشهامة تحزموا قوم اليوم يوم الملحمة وصرخة الأحرار ساحة الثورة بوطننا تريد